Hello, it's your boy Zappa, known as the King of the Giant Robots, a title that I did not give myself, I assure you. And we're here in response, in reaction as it were, to the recent DLC announcement for Super Robot Wars 30. Currently, we have 2 PBs, promotional videos, and the most recent as of, I believe, 3 days ago on day of recording, the DLC announcement that I would like to believe universally was a lot more than what we expected. So, my goal here is to get you, those who are perhaps new to the franchise, perhaps those of you that I have randomly gifted a copy of the game to, for day of release, on Steam, October 28th. I'm here to get you hype and get you informed about what to expect from each series, as well as my personal thoughts on everything. I know there are others out there that have done videos like these, and I find that some of those have varying opinions, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. Perhaps they enjoyed one show, didn't enjoy another. Perhaps they are geared more towards super robots and less towards real. I even have some of those preferences myself. But I want to give you a more hype opinion as opposed to the show A is bad, show B is good. So, as the King of the Giant Robots, I've gotten this title from another Twitch streamer because of my collection. Some of you who've been around the channel for a while know that I have a very extensive collection. Up above me is the entirety of the Super Robot Wars video game franchise and physical media. Behind the camera here are at least 10, if not 15 shelves of Gunpla alone. 5 shelves of physical media of Giant Robot anime exclusively. And an entirely too large backlog of other model kits I haven't built, and I feel bad for that because I don't have time. I'm here on YouTube. And my real paying job. I digress. I have here on the side, so sometimes you'll see me look over here. I have the list of every show that is going to be in Super Robot Wars 30. And to my right are representations in physical form of some kind. So let's begin first with Chodenji Robo Combattler V. It's a show that came out in the early 70s. One of the progenitors, is that the right term here? One of the original forerunners of the 5-man band team. Something that you see in Voltron, something that you see in Super Sentai shows, Power Ranger shows. This is one of the show. This is the show that got the 5-man band trope coming. Allow me to read you the back of the box. Earth is under attack by the ruthless Campbellian army, and Yemeni's only hope is 5 plucky youths. Recruited from all corners of Japan, these young heroes come with their own specialty, as well as their own priorities. But if they want to save the planet, they'll have to put aside their squabbles and egos and unite their hearts. It is the only way to form the invincible robot, Combattler V. First of Tadao Nagahama's romantic robot series, Combattler V changed the super robot genre as both the genre's first 5-part combiner and an early examination of the personal factors that lead humanity to war and strife. Combattler V pioneers the high drama that would characterize Speeder's latest installments while keeping one foot in the light-hearted fun that defined many of its animated predecessors, a much-see as a part of Super Robot history. And I agree. Chodenji Robo Combattler V is a 5-part robot. 5 pilots. What you can expect from Super Robot Wars is a super robot unit, a high HP, a high defense unit, with a variety of attacks that don't make any sense to what is within the machine itself. Some weapons are larger than it, some weapons don't seem like they should fit in that way. When it comes to super robots, don't think too hard about the realism, because that's not what a super robot is. Combattler V is a super electromagnetic warrior, and having 5 pilots means that it's going to have 5 characters that not only have their own skills, but they're going to have their own spell sets. It's a very versatile unit that I've found a lot of use in my Super Robot Wars history, because while some of your pilots will have a more offensive line of spells, some of them have more defensive, and the other ones have utility. And that's the important thing, is to have options across the board for your giant robot selection. Combattler V is my favorite of the Romantic Robot trilogy, and I can't tell you why. I didn't grow up on it, and when I came to it, I watched Combat V and Voltes 5 literally at the same time. There was a time when I was streaming on livestream.com. Every weekend I would run 5 episodes of Combat V, 5 episodes of Voltes 5, and 5 episodes of Daitarn 3. I think 2 people only ever watched it. It was the first time I also tried to stream Super Robot Wars Alpha Gaiden to little fanfare. I digress. I adore Combat V. I believe it's going to be a very powerful unit, and I'm very happy that it's made a return to the series. We're going to huck that over there on the bed where it's safe. That's become a much more dangerous area as we go along. Next in the series, I'm going to cover several topics here because we have appearing in robot form only Mobile Suit Gundam. This particular case right here is the first 21 episodes. It does not include the Elusive Doan's Island episode, although the Japanese release of this set does. And it's such a bizarre episode, but I digress. This is the original Real Robot. This is what Tomino broke the mold with and decided that giant robot stories needed to be more about the people and personal strife and not every episode is a new monster for the heroes to destroy. I need not tell you about Gundam. Gundam is its own legend. But what you can expect to see from both this as well as, what is it, ZMSV, Zeta Mobile Suit Variations, and MMSV is Missing Mobile Suit Variations, are a lot of the older and, I'm going to be honest, goofier designs. You're going to see our main pilot, Amuro Ray, piloting Grandpa Gundam right here, the OG, the original Gundam. We call him Grandpa Gundam because he is the first. He is, you respect him. That's your grandpa. That's your Oji-chan. That's your abuelo. You take care of him, and he takes care of you. And I believe that's going to be the same case in Super Robot Wars. It's going to be, if not the Gundam itself, Amuro Ray will be a mainstay in your team, while he's just... I didn't script any of this, but Amuro Ray and the Gundam are going to be very important to the story, as is tradition. For the Gundam is one of the 3 pillars of Super Robot Wars. We'll get to the other 2 later. But it is a real robot. That means you're going to be relying on him to not get hit. His goal is to not be hit as much as possible. But that also means as a trade-off is he's not going to be putting out as much damage. Super robots are the tanks that are going to take a hit and give the hit. Whereas real robots are designed not to get hit and to skirt around and distribute less damage. DPS, I think, is maybe a apt comparison to other such video games. I don't play video games that require a DPS class or anything. I don't play Diablo. I don't play MMOs or anything. I'm sorry. But that is to say, the legendary Grandpa is going to be around. Now, as far as MSV, the Mobile Suit Variations, those are designs that were not ever in the show, but they were introduced in design documents and sketchbooks and other promotional art. I'm sure there are magazines out there like, oh, in this month's issue of Gundam the Great Volume 7, we're going to take a look at some other designs that were made for a show and that didn't feature. And these will get featured, these will get used, and they're also considered canon to the series and are often seen in important side stories, stuff that you'll see in current video games like SD Gundam G Generation Genesis and its predecessors before it. A lot of model kits also come from the MSV series. You're going to see a lot, I believe mostly you're going to see a lot of enemy mobile suits to fill out the ranks, so you're not always fighting Zaku's or Gyaradogas or Gedlavs. You have a variety for your enemy aces to also ascend through so that their power rises with flexibility as opposed to just more number. And in past cases I expect to see something like maybe a Zeta 3 or a Zeta 2 come through. I almost said something else, but that might come as part of a DLC thing later. So, Grandpa Gundam, the original Mobile Suit Gundam, will not see any story for this, but expect to see a lot of back references like, oh, I remember the 1 Year War. Oh, I remember this happened. Oh, I remember that guy. Into the pile you go. Next up. Not a personal favorite, but a functional favorite. Mobile Suit Z Gundam. Z Gundam, while not quite one of the 3 pillars, has been around in 90% of Super Robot Wars, and is also got a little bit of Super Robot concepts in it. It, as one of your units in Super Robot Wars, expect the Zeta Gundam to be very evasive, but also be able to put out a lot of damage. You'll also see a lot of the plot revolving around Camille Bidan, our main character, and his journey through both maturity and war. You expect to see his rival Jared Mesa cause a lot of problems, depending on how much of the story they actually cover. And this isn't just a case of suits only, but we didn't tell you. There's going to be a lot of tragedy, and a lot of NPCs are going to be dying. You're also going to probably be seeing a fair amount of Hamonkarn, but since they didn't announce Double Zeta be a part of this, I don't expect Hamonkarn's going to be as big a player as she would were Double Zeta antics happening. But again, as a unit, as units, plural, Zeta Gundam also brings one of my favorite units, the Methus. The Methus is a very small and largely agile mobile suit. It transforms into a mobile armor mode that allows it more evasion, but less functionality as an attacker. But its greatest function is that it's going to bring you one of your best and early on healers that has a lot of mobility. Other units are going to be able to move adjacent to a robot and recover its HP, sometimes recover its energy. And the Methus is probably going to be one of your better ones for the long haul. So, as is the case with mobile suits, you'll be able to put whomever you like. If you want to keep Armoro around and you don't want to put him in Grandpa Gundam, put him in the Methus. Put him in the Zeta. That's one of the advantages to Mobile Suit Gundam, is with very, very few exceptions, you'll be able to put any pilot in any robot as you see fit, unless the plot deems otherwise. Zeta Gundam, while I am personally tired of singing it, it is a mainstay in Super Robot Wars series. It is a fan favorite, obviously, and it's going to make him one of your friends. Camille should be one of your friends. The Zeta Gundam will be one of your friends. And just by you go. That was the original DVD set. Next up is something else I'm also not happy to continue to see, but again, this is one of the 3 pillars of Super Robot Wars and one of the poster boys, Mobile Suit Gundam Char's Counterattack. A lot of this plot's going to probably happen after events of Zeta, depending on how they're going to mix and match the plot, but you're going to expect to see this, the new Gundam here. This is where you're going to see Armor Ray in the majority of your playthrough, unless you deem otherwise. You can put other characters in it, but this is the culmination of a lot of things that happen in the original Gundam and a lot of things that happen in Zeta Gundam. Double Zeta, while it happens in between, it's largely irrelevant to the build-up between Armor Ray and Char's Aznable's personal beliefs and personal struggles between each other and humanity itself. You can expect to see in the late game a large crossover of some other enemy is probably going to drop some other large thing on the Earth. Char may participate. Char may continue to do what he does in this and try to drop Axis on Earth. And it's time for everyone to knock it off and come together. In Super Robot Wars 30, I expect this to have a little more flash and show than it has in the past. I don't have a whole lot more to say about it because I've said it, the rest with the other Gundam variations. These are your units that are meant to not get hit. And as we progress through the timeline, they do have the ability to put out more damage from further away. The idea is that you don't want them to be hit. Take a seat over there, sir. We have something I'm very happy to see come back. Victory Gundam. This happens decades, a century or two after Char's counterattack occurs, so everything is largely removed. But what they've done in the past is they've integrated it as just another faction from just outside of the Earth sphere, or where the Earth and the colonies are located. So it's going to be the Zanskar Empire is going to be another faction. They will sometimes work with, probably sometimes work against, ZEON, Neo ZEON, and several other real robot factions. Uso Eben is our main character. He is also accompanied by co-pilot Haro, which I personally believe is the very same Haro that Amuro had in the beginning, just slightly restored over time. The Haro that was passed on to Camille, that was passed on to Judo, that was passed on to Hathaway, that somehow made it all the way to Uso. I like to believe it's the same Haro, but that's just a personal theory. An anime theory. Memes. I digress. The Victory Gundam is going to increase, or it continues to be a real robot, but it starts to blur the line between what the real robot's role is and what the super robot's role is in putting out high damage. The Victory Gundam and its subsequent upgrades put out a lot of high power with a lot of evasion. Uso is our youngest Gundam protagonist that is in a proper Gundam series, not counting the build series, which those are not proper Gundams, you know what I mean. And here's an interesting thing that I don't think many people know about. The first game that Victory Gundam appeared in, Robot Wars 2G on the Game Boy, depending on your choices, Katagina, who is Uso's rival, her Char clone as it were, even that's another thing. Depending on your choices in Robot Wars 2G, Katagina could be an enemy or never be an enemy at all. And that's something that I would like to see happen in this game, where perhaps the order of the stages you play, or the decisions you make in battle by shooting down or not shooting, or saving or not saving this, that, and the other people, Katagina can stay and perhaps even become an ally pilot as opposed to an enemy pilot. This is not something that they've explored at all since 2G, because it's always the case of Katagina goes crazy, Katagina wants to kill Uso. And so in Alpha and Alpha Gaiden, they have Katagina on the enemy side. Katagina is not your friend. You don't talk to her. You can try to talk to her. It's going to fail. And I believe there was another Robot Wars on a handheld where Victory Gundam had appeared, but I don't know anything about that one, unfortunately, not yet. I don't believe, again, that they've explored this option. So that's something that I hope to personally see. The Victory Gundam is probably going to be one of your mainstays early on in the game. Once it gets its upgrade, the Victory 2, that's probably going to stick around. Odds are, whether or not you keep Uso in the Victory, you'll want to keep him around in general, because he will always be co-piloted by Haro. And like with Combattler V, that's 2 sets of spells, 2 sets of skills that you can use, and having more options is better. It's always better to have more options. Victory Gundam in the pot. New to the series, although technically not, what appeared in Robot Wars Cross Omega, perhaps even DD, I don't pay much attention to those two, is Mobile Suit Gundam NT Narrative. This is a movie that came out a few years ago. I was lucky enough to see it in theaters. I believe that was the one that myself and the other members of Colony Drop Cosplay also cosplayed too. This particular box set that came out less than a year ago also contains an art book for those of you who like such things. I know Queen of Space does. Gundam Narrative, is the immediate sequel to Gundam Unicorn. My understanding that Gundam Unicorn will not be appearing. This is not going. They're going to sneak it in unless it's going to be part of future DLC that was not announced. The NT, the narrative Gundam, the titular Gundam, is most likely going to be something that you'll be fielding often. It's going to take up a lot of space, but it's going to also do something that super robots do, and it's going to be able to take a hit. It has what's called the B-Packs? No. The A-Packs, which is a large carrier-type mobile armor that's going to probably allow it several longer range attacks, more high-powered attacks, as well as being able to take a hit or 15 before with it being a threat. Considering the plot of Gundam narrative would be occurring, you can also expect to see the Unicorn Unit 3, the Fenix. This is a gold mobile suit. Will probably be an NPC across several stages, much akin to another upcoming series we'll talk about, where it was only ever an NPC ally. You will get no control over it, although it will assist you in a few battles. And I'm sure this will be one of the secrets that you will strive for throughout the entirety of the game. This will be something you'll want to be keeping an eye out for if you want to go in blind and not look at a guide. Or if you do look at a guide, I'm sure you'll see a lot of main character. Goodness, what is his name? I forgot his name already. I'm not seeing it on the back of the book. Bro, what's his name? Bro, what is his name? It doesn't have his name on the back of the book. You'd think you'd talk about the main character of the fucking movie. It's all about the factions, but not what the kid's name is. Bruh. There it is, in an unrelated part, not about the movie. Joan Bassa. Expect to see him a lot. They'll probably integrate this plot a lot closer to things that are happening with Char's counterattack. If not, it'll be its own thing because this is very advanced mobile suit technology that's occurring. I'm actually very excited to see this in the game. As much as I previously complained about too much of the classic Gundam that's always there, while this is the main Gundam timeline, it's new, so I'm willing to give it a chance. When Unicorn was new, I was willing to give it a chance. It was alright. It was good. Expect good things. I expect good things. I hope for good things. Into the void with you. Next up is the weird case of two shows that do not have a physical media release in the United States yet. And that's very unfortunate. But that just means that my theory of everything had an American release at some juncture was wrong. Meaning that they did have to go through a bit of licensing hell in order to get it licensed for the United States, if just a PC release. And so we have, and this is my representation, Brave Police J. Decker. So have some police robots and have the one Elgon robot we got, which is another part of a series of super robots. Now, J. Decker is going to be one of those few that I don't know shit about. I have up here, and you've seen it on the channel before, I have Brave Saga, which is a tactical RPG much in the style of Super Robot Wars that only features the Brave series, which is a series of giant robots that started in the early 90s. And on an annual release, there was several shows in a series, starting, I believe, with J. Decker. No, it wasn't J. Decker. There was two before J. Decker. And then J. Decker came out. But the idea is that it is largely about a child hero who becomes friends, associates with a sentient robot, but unlike Transformers, you actually get in the robot, which is good. So, J. Decker, one of the things that I know very little about, I'm incredibly excited to see, because Like Brave Express Might Guide in the past trilogy. It's like, hey, this is new to me. Show me your moves. Tell me about your tales and your woes. Now, I found it very strange for it to be in all 3 games. And yet they still always manage to do something new. Like cover different parts of the plot. Expect a lot of goofiness and the occasional getting serious. But unfortunately, there is no new or old physical availability for J Decker. Do as you will, Crossbone Vanguard. I'm sure they exist somewhere. Now, something that is ancient, and I'm missing half of, I have the Power Box for the King of Braves, Galaga. Now, by the looks of this, this is only the second half, volumes 6 through 10 of Galaga. I've only just recently started watching this show, and it's good, and I hear it's very Monster of the Week up until a certain point. There is another half that's even more hard to get a hold of than this half, but very expensive, but I'm going to get it eventually. King of Braves Galaga was the last of the Brave series, and the only one that we got in the United States. It is by far the most popular. It's got a thing that, I don't know if it's still a term currently, but it has what's called Gar, and of course that is part of the name Galaga. And Gar is what I understand to be a very manly, hot-blooded state of mind. It's like, no, I am the man, I am the champion here, let's go do justice. And the 2 characters that were most ever put into my attention by the use of Gar were always Gai Shishio, the main character, as well as Kamina from Tengen Toppan Gurren Lagann. So that's the kind of personality you can expect for Gai to have. He is the champion, the good-looking cyborg robot man. And the specific entry, what is it? King of Kings? Galaga Final? Is not a part of this box set. Galaga Final was a direct sequel, the continuation of the story, where things escalated further. So what you can expect to see in Super Robot Wars is a very large, screaming, loud, and powerful Super Robot at the climax of his plot. You'll probably get 2 or 3 instances of what's going on in their plot across the entirety of the game before moving on to what is the follow-up, the sequel to that part, which is a manga, a novel, something that's only available in readable format online. There are fan translations of, what does it call it over here? It calls it something, it calls it Overlord Galaga versus Better Man. Now, I'm a fan of this show, Better Man. I found it very entertaining, despite the fact that it's full of a bunch of over-the-top crazy pseudoscience that has 1 foot in the door of science and 1 foot in the mouth of madness. Because a lot of it does, and then immediately does not make any sense to you whatsoever. I have owned this. This is one of the first anime box sets that I ever started purchasing way back. This and Duel and Get Backers were the first 3 big box sets of anime that I purchased. So I've had this one for decades. At least. Almost 20 years going. So you can go back and watch my trailer reactions, nearly cry at the mere sound of references to Better Man. One of the lead characters from Galaga, I've actually forgotten his name now. Makoto? Probably. I'm so sorry. Someone's going to kick my ass in the comments. But please do, yes, comment. Tell me his name. He becomes the main character of Galaga vs. Better Man, and he pilots what is a combination of Triple G technology and the Kakuseijins built by... I've forgotten all the names. Is this Akamatsu Industries is back on the box. Thank you. Because he says synapse attack, and that is the synapse attack is a gathering of energy in the air into the robot and then expelling it. So much in the way that Galaga is going to be a very loud, powerful, screaming unit, you can expect the unit, your main unit from, I think it's called Galaga Go, G-A-O, Galaga Go. No, I think just G-O. You can expect that be just a smaller version of Gaishishio's Galaga variants. It'll be putting out big damage. It'll take little damage, and it's probably going to have a lot of gimmicks such as barriers, such as being able to do high amounts of damage to very specific enemies. And then, as we saw in the trailers 2, Lamia, the hero, the better man, is also back, which I remember hearing things in various discords and chats that no, you're not going to see anything from the original Better Man. It's just references and plot and like wrapped up threads. You're not going to see any of those characters. So that's already been proven wrong because I don't know anything about the manga. So I'm hoping to at least see a couple of other returning characters from Better Man into this entry. If not, whatever. I'm still happy to see it. But expect things to get very super pseudoscience and potentially confusing. I am still a fan anyway, so Galaga vs. Better Man. Expect good things. I expect mighty deeds. Next up, running back to the top of the list because I'm looking at the Super Robot Wars website. We have things that I've yet to watch yet because you can still see they are in the shrink wrap. We are getting units and robots from the third part of this movie trilogy. This is Code Geass Lelouch of the Rebellion. The third movie being Imperial Road. The movies, as I understand, are different from the television series that came out a decade or so ago because it slightly varies things so that the endings of people are different. Not necessarily the ending of the plot in general, but things play out for people differently. Very interesting. And it's 3 movies, so once I finish recording Alpha 2, I will put some time in. To which the plot of the follow-up, Code Geass Lelouch of the Resurrection. Can someone explain to me why anime titles have been doing this lately? We have Recreators, Re-Zero, and now Resurrection. And I always thought that was kind of like a reply, like an email chain reply. It's like regarding, reply to. What does this actually mean when they do this? This RE semicolon? I digress. So, this is also something I haven't seen, but it's a direct sequel to the strange events that mix up the proper ending of the Code Geass television series. As we saw in PV2, something that was unfinished from the movie series will be a playable unit in this plot. But Code Geass, as far as units go, you can expect, much like in the way of mobile suits, are going to be far smaller units, very evasive, and very specific ones are going to be there to put out a lot of damage. What you're going to expect to see from Lelouch himself, the main character, is he'll probably have his own unique gimmick. It'll be something akin to, as opposed to attacking on his turn, he'll have an area of an effect that will raise the stats of those within that area. It's called, while there is a skill called the Commander Aura, he has a very specific tactical commander. And it's like, oh, I'm giving you orders, you attack here, you attack here, you attack here. I'm playing chess, you're playing chess with Super Robot Wars. So expect for him to have some kind of gimmick that they had also given him back in Robot Wars Z series, where people around him will get a statistical boost at the cost of his turn, which is going to be a trade-off because there's also going to probably be an ace bonus. An ace bonus being where a character gets a certain amount of kills, they'll unlock a very specific skill unique to them, where Lelouch will probably be able to increase that area of effect or increase the numerical effect, once he reaches a certain number of kills. So you have to decide carefully if you want him to attack or if you want him to have everyone else be more powerful. But expect a lot of trickery, a lot of deceit, a lot of backstabbing, a lot of turncoats, a lot of rudeness and sadness from Code Geass. If I throw this, it's going to be very painful. That wasn't so bad. One of those is a steel box. Next up, we have the second of the 3 pillars of Super Robot Wars. The 3 pillars were the original Gundam, as well as Getter Robo. We have here Shin Change Getter Robo Armageddon. This is the most recent iteration of Getter Robo. That's not Getter Robo Arc. This is the last visual media that we got for Getter Robo, and this is what, I feel like this is 2004. It's pretty old, and they've been using Getter Robo and Shin Getter Robo for the longest time, which is perfectly fine and valid. But I don't have much of like an opinion on the show, because like Getter Robo is one of those weird ones where when I watch it, I don't remember that I watched it. I know I've watched a couple of episodes of Armageddon. I don't know if I watched the whole thing. I've watched other Getter Robo shows. I watched Arc. I watched New Getter Robo. I watched Shin vs. Neo. But I can't. So the thing is Getter Robo is one of your classic super robots that is Monster of the Week. I think I'm also getting a little long-winded. I've been talking a lot and I'm not used to this. And I'm also like didn't plan anything I had to say, and I guess this, unfortunately, Getter Robo was the object of my temporary burnout. But that's not to say that it's bad, it's to say that I'm becoming exhausted. Shin Getter Robo is a very, very powerful unit. You can expect that it's going to be one of your main damage dealers. It does a ridiculous amount of damage. It has a lot of gimmicks going on. And even long before Combattler V, Getter Robo was the series that introduced the concept of a robot that transforms into another robot. Getter Robo is a 3-part machine that can separate and combine into different forms in a different order for different terrain and tactical and battle purposes. Shin Getter Robo is the culmination, the most powerful form casually. There are more powerful forms of Getter Robo, but this is the most casually powerful that you're going to get. And you're probably going to get this rather early on. You're going to be dealing with a lot of aliens, a lot of monsters that have no concept, or I mean, not no concept, but no will of their own. More so just mindless destruction until the concept and the plot is revealed to you. But expect Getter Robo to be in your team a lot. It's a 3-pilot machine, so once again we have the versatility of many spell sets to use. It transforms, so it's going to be good in air, it's going to be good on the ground, it's going to be good in water. And being good in the water, while incredibly rare, when it's time to throw him out of my ocean. Like, Getter 3 is underrated, and when it's time for Getter 3 to shine, Getter 3 is shining sparkling dipped in butter. Please, take in the hype. Respect your roots. Getter Robo will be good. There's also a different... You're also getting... You only get 2 units from this. Maybe 3rd if we get a tech smack. But you'll get the titular Getter Robo and Shin Getter Robo. You'll also... Okay, there's our 3 units, but whatever. You'll also get a giant battleship called the Getter Dragon, which is also going to be very important since battleships in past Robot Wars aren't really designed to output damage. Getter Dragon is. Getter Dragon is meant to do you a hurt. So expect to see these put out a lot of damage for you and be particularly ridiculous, over the top. That thing that I mentioned about Gar, Ryoma Nagare, Go, Very gar. I digress. Let me see if I can't recover a little bit more, because of everything that I've watched and experienced, Getarobo's that weird blank space. Like, why don't I know about it? Why don't I know more? It's been in so many Super Robot Wars games. Why don't I know more? Why haven't I internalized Getarobo? I think it's just something that's new into my brain with Arc. So it's hard. It's hard. I've watched so many robots. Like this. The newest form of Grandpa Gundam, and god dang, that sleeve is shiny. Get that off of there. We have Mazinger Z Infinity. Now again, Mazinger Z is one of your grandfathers, your grandpappy, your granddad, Oji-chan, Abuelo, Teo. This is one of the great fathers of giant robots. None older than he outside of Tetsujin 28 and Astro Boy. Mazinger Z is like the super robot. I'm sorry. I have to emphasize, because I know there are a lot of younger people out there than me that watch anime. And just working with them at my job, at my everyday regular job, I know that some of them are open to watching older things, and someone's like, ew, that's old, that looks old, I don't want to watch that. And I think that's an absolutely atrocious mindset to have. How can you walk into work wearing a Scarface shirt and then say, oh, I don't want to watch that, that looks old? Scarface is older than you are. You need to know and respect your roots. And Mazinger Z Infinity continues those roots by being the direct sequel of events that happened in Mazinger Z and Great Mazinger. Now, I'd like to hope Grandizer, but they don't even mention Grandizer in this, which is dumb. Absolutely dumb. Like, movie review, I saw so much potential for doing so many cool things right there at the end. Even if just a silhouette and an attack call, they could have done some cool shit. That's my only complaint. Mazinger Z Infinity is the newest version of Mazinger Z. They've moved past using Shin Mazinger, Shogeki Z and Mazinger Z The Impact, which is fine, because now it's time for the new stuff to come in. You know, this is one of this is the other of the three pillars. You have Gundam, you have Getter, and you have Mazinger. These three are what made up the first Super Robot Wars and continued the legacy. You can look at the promotional art for Robot Wars 30, and in that specific pose that Mazinger Z, Getarobo, and the new Gundam are in are the exact same poses that Mazinger Z, Getarobo, and the Gundam are in on the box art of Robot Wars the First. So Mazinger Z Infinity, I can't see this having a whole lot of plot occur because of what they chose to do, and because of some of the things that I've seen from the first stages. I don't remember that happening in the movie. I don't remember seeing Koji and Ichinana, which is the lesser but better mass-produced Mazinger. Mass-produced by men as opposed to mass-produced by the enemy. Because, you know, they're going to make a bootleg that's like, oh, it's better than you! And then crumbles in a matter of seconds because Rust Hurricane. This should also be one of your mainstay characters. Koji Kabuto is designed to be that character that does one thing really good. What you'll see when you look at your attack moves, you're going to see two icons. You're going to see a targeting reticle and a fist. No matter what Koji Kabuto's attack is, be it missiles, be it rust winds, be it breast fire, be it throwing a sword 15 tiles across the map, everything has that fist icon. That is a melee icon. What you're going to do with Koji Kabuto is you're going to embrace melee. He's going to punch everything into oblivion. Rocket punch. And I mean that's a joke in and of itself, but I mean that quite literally. In every Super Robot Wars games, if you focus stat building on melee, Koji easily becomes one of your most damaging characters without trying. You just have to build him up to do so. So, with Mazinger Z Infinity, and you can expect to see probably the better parts of the movie play out, and then some. And what that some is they designed a toy line where, when they redesigned Mazinger Z and Great Mazinger for the Infinity version, they decided, well, Mazinger Z has friends. He has Grundizer. Mazinger Z has upgrades. He has Mazin Kaiser. He has more friends. He has Galaga. Galaga also created Kotetsu, excuse me. He didn't create Shin. So what we have, and this is the only like easily accessed grab I have on the shelf behind the camera. I have Getter Dragon Infinitism. I have Mazinger Z Infinity. And just because this was the easiest box to grab, we have its representation Mazinger Z, or specifically Mazin Kaiser Infinitism. The Infinitism is a toy line, a model kit brand that brings much of Gonagai's older creations into a more modern look in the way that Mazinger Z and Great Mazinger had been redesigned. So you see a lot of extra details, a lot of extra panels, wherein back in the day it was all smooth. Like a Pokemon, like a Pikachu should be fuzzy, but he's smooth. So we have Mazin Kaiser from the Infinitism toy line. And that, when you get tired of seeing Koji in the Mazinger Z and the Ichinana, you're going to see him get into Mazin Kaiser. And that is going to be that should be one of your unit staples. Because Mazin Kaiser is just damage. Anyone who's not using Mazin Kaiser may actively hate Mazinger Z, may be doing a challenge run where it's real robots only or no main characters. But for the casual player, for the people I'm making this video for, who I want to bring into the game and know what to expect, Mazin Kaiser is going to be on your team putting in the hurt. Now, what is the case with, or similar to Mobile Suits and probably the Nightmare Frames of Code Geass, there's most likely going to be a case where any of the characters that appear from Mazinger Z Infinity, which is probably going to be characters like Boss, Tetsuya, probably Sayaka. I say probably not actually. Koji's little brother Shiro. You'll be able to freely transfer them about. So if for some reason you take a liking to Shiro, or you want to do something silly, or you want Tetsuya, you can put them into the Mazin Kaiser, although there's a chance probably not. I know Mazin Kaiser likes to be exclusively Koji's unit, so if you like to swap your pilots around for the fun of it, you may not be able to put someone different inside the Mazin Kaiser. Just expect the animation is going to be wild and the damage is going to be large. I'm not going to throw G. I don't want to break parts. Something that I missed from the first list, which I remembered when I had to grab that box, is the other series that in the US we don't have a physical release of. Now, once upon a time, and good grief, I am parched, my friends. Pardon me, this is not a brand deal, so I'm going to show you the barcode on this maroon bottle. No, I'm not going to cut that out. Take a drink with your boy. That was your drink break. That was your chance to go and pause and then come back. As I was saying, word on the block was that when it came time to try to redub or remaster or do something with the series, the originals were so badly damaged that if they tried to do anything with them, they were going to be destroyed. Like, there was... Like, no, they're too old, they're too worn out, they're too bad, we can't do anything, which I think is dumb, bullshit. But I also don't know how the anime industry works on a technical side. I know how some of the voice acting stuff works, I've known voice actors. But we have Heavy Metal Elgon. This is one of the units from Elgon. Recently got very good model kits, although they are largely reprints of the originals with a few extra pieces here and there for increased detail and increased posability and flexibility. Elgon, well created by Tomino. I haven't watched it. I've interacted with it on a minimum scale. I've got a little bit of a touch from it from Robot Wars F and Real Robot Battle Line, but I don't know anything about Elgon other than it's time for Elgon. So for me, this will be my first Robot Wars experience with Elgon, legitimately. Like, I'm sure there's other games that have a translation patch or guide that include Elgon that would cover the plot. I don't know anything about it, so I'm excited to see what's going on. And it's not like it's a units only thing. It's not like, oh, your plot's already wrapped up, go just be here for show. It's not another Centuries episode 2. It's time for Elgon, and I hope to enjoy the good things. I'm fine with starting that one. I don't know why the jig box is too big. Get that over there. So with that. So we have, next up, more robots that I own and I have not watched. We have Magic Knight Rayearth. Now, for growing up years and years and years, Magic Knight Rayearth to me was just another shoujo anime, and that's fine. I just never got around to it. I knew it existed. I knew the character designs. I have a particular dislike for the way our main character is designed. There are things about the way her hair is designed that I don't like, and it's an aesthetic thing. I also hate quests from Char's counterattack because most of the time she has a lopsided ponytail. I don't like it, but that's an aesthetic thing that has nothing to do with the show. Now, my understanding is that it's good. Robot Wars Rayearth was also in Robot Wars T, which unfortunately was out at about that time that I really started to sink my teeth into doing YouTube. So I never got as far into T to actually play with the units or see any of the plot. So I am again excited to interact with this for the first time. This is going to be new to me, so I don't know what to expect other than magical girls and elements and some good shit. I expect mighty deeds. Although I hear from the Queen of Space that they're actually made to go through some wild and dark shit until they get to the robots, so... Cross-edge by Clamp. Rayearth is a Clamp creation, which... Clamp is very known for their shoujo stuff. Less so about their giant robots. I designed the character for Gias. So unfortunately, that's one of the many shows that I don't know anything about. Super robots, though. I'm sure they will also have combination attacks. I'm sorry, I actually don't know what to say about Rayearth. Next up on the list, according to the lineup, is Gun X Sword, or depending on where you look at it written, Gun Sword. My understanding that sometimes the X is not pronounced, because we have Namco X Capcom or Namco Cross Capcom. Sometimes X is crossed, sometimes X is multiplied, sometimes X doesn't exist, which is the case with like animes like Hunter x Hunter. we have Gunsword. So Gunsword also appeared in Robot Wars T, but this is one of the shows that I had watched a long time ago on Netflix. It happened to be around. So there was a lot of hot-blooded action, a lot of kind of silliness going on too. Like, even though Vaughn here is a very serious character, a lot of silly things would happen around him, and he kind of like reacts to it and go along with it reluctantly. So aesthetically, and probably because it was the thing to do at the time, what I'm going to draw parallels to is both Vash the Stampede and Spike Spiegel, where it's time to be serious, and then sometimes wild, goofy shit's going on around you, and you can't be serious all the time. Like, Spike can be serious all the time, but sometimes wacky shit happens. Vash is always trying to be wacky, but sometimes serious shit happens. And I like to think this falls somewhere in the middle with giant robots. There's also a stripper robot. Of all the things that happen in Gunsword, of the revenge plot for the dead wife, I remember the stripper robot. But from what you can expect from Vaughn and Dan of Thursday as a unit, is very melee focused, so you're not going to be able to be very far away from your target. But much like Koji, develop his melee skill, and he's going to be pouring out numbers faster than you can count them. It's going to be very, very much high power man. I understand in T he also had a very specific skill to himself that also increased his damage output, and that may have been also the case because he's not new. Gunning Sword is not new to the Robot Wars franchise from T. It was also in one of the, I think, DS titles. Definitely none of the GBA ones. I know he's in one of the DS titles, but I couldn't tell you which one. But expect good. Expect a lot of the big good. The big good is the Eldora 5. The Eldora 5 is a reference to classic giant robots, to classic combiners like Combattler, Voltez, Voltron, whatever is your fancy. But they're old. Respect your roots. Know your classics and your roots. That closed rather quietly. I believe somebody just came home and I don't want to be a bother, and I don't want them to bother us. Next up, the show I was very excited to see, and I was very annoyed to hear that it wasn't new, because Majestic Prince had also appeared in either Cross Omega or DD, and because it had appeared in the gacha style mobile games, I don't know anything about them, I don't know if they're gacha, but they're mobile as opposed to handheld, and that gives me a particular dislike for them, because I've always been in the unluck that when the new hype mobile game comes out for whatever it is, my phone can't handle it for some reason. Parallel is I had a smartphone when Pokemon Go had first come out. My phone was too outdated to handle it, and it wasn't even 2 years old. Same thing when Cross Omega actually came out, was my phone was a year out of date to be able to handle it. And when DD came out, my phone was having memory problems because I had like exactly 15 different apps on it, and I had no space for anything despite having a 15 gig memory card in there. So I have unluck and dislike for mobile games. Not to say they're bad, because I don't like them. They're not for me. I do like Majestic Prince though. I was privy to a discussion very recently that Majestic Prince, Valvrave, and Gargantia were all about in the same season, and largely the opinion was that Majestic Prince is the better of the three. Even though the other two started stronger, Majestic Prince just had an overall more consistently good product from start to finish. Even though some people think it got a little goofy at the end, some people think the final episode / movie at the end is a little too over the top. And even when the first PV came out, I had my facts wrong. I said that they were a squad of reject pilots and test pilots, and it just so happens that, like, no, they're actually really fucking good. Their teamwork is shit. Which is the case when you decide, like, oh, we're going to take these 5 kids, put them in some experimental robots. Y'all are a team now. Get along, little fucker. So, in that sense, and from what we read from the back of the Combat RV box, which is the only thing I read from the back of a box, sorry team, is they're taking upon that thing where you have to watch these kids grow and build their teamwork. And it is a 5-man band. They don't combine. But each unit is going to have its own specialty. You've already got a melee heavy robot that you've seen in the PV. That's Red 5. You see Gold 4 as your sniper unit. And I think Rose 3. I'm very bad with these numbers. Rose 3. I believe Rose 3 because it's green 2. It's blue 1. Red 5. Yeah, like... Purple 2 and Rose 3. Yeah, so Rose 3, the big mobile armor looking one, is your tank. The very, very fast moving tank for all that. I haven't watched it since it came out because, as is the case with a lot of anime that I've been watching in the last 10 years, I watch it as it releases. So I'm watching it according to the Crossbone Vanguard, according to the Bay of Yo Ho Ho and a bottle of Ramune. So I watched it when it was brand new and I haven't watched it since. So I'm going to be very excited to relive the show, which should be the case for you. It's like, with the exception of 2, 3 of these series, you are physically capable of going out and purchasing any of these anime that you see in this show. Now, a lot of them are older, and I'm a collector, but if you happen to risk going to an anime convention, or you've got a healthy wallet for some reason, you know, birthday, Christmas is coming up, if you like these shows, there are physical copies available for these shows. And as a friend of several voice actors, I'm always going to say, when you can, please support the official releases of anything that you can, when you can. Majestic Prince is going to be 5 units. I believe there's also a secret 6th unit. I say secret in air quotes. Probably not going to be a traditional Super Robot Wars secret. Just not the one that you see promote in the promotional stuff. That's what I was trying to say. They're all going to have their different specialties, but they're going to be probably best kept close together, and they will synergize well. Again, they will probably have what are combination attacks, where anywhere from 2 to 4, I think once. There's one case where there's a combination attack that uses 5 units. And you'll just want to keep them together, and they will synergize well. But at the same time, also, you might want to just pick your favorite, and like, I want to use Blue 1. I don't like the rest of the team. Blue 1 is my guy. It's fine. Just know that each one of these units is going to have a very particular role to fill, and I'm sure they will cover it very well. Watch the animations, look at their numbers, and you'll find out where they belong. Welcome to Team Rabbits. New to Super Robot Wars franchise. I don't care what anybody says. Actually new to Super Robot Wars franchise, Knights and Magic. An anime for people who like cute children and fucking nerds. Wow. Combat RV had a whole fucking like 7-sentence paragraph. This has 1 sentence. Reincarnated as a young boy, Mecha Otaku Tsubasa Kurata finds himself in a world where magic is real and humans pilot giant robots. I mean, that does tell you essentially about the show. I can tell you more, and I will tell you more. Child, even though his name is Tsubasa Kurota, you can forget that name. That name doesn't mean shit. Call him Ernie. I think it's Ernest in full. Child Prince Ernest is now possessed. The child existed beforehand, and then all of a sudden just an awakening occurs when the real Tsubasa Kurota is killed in a car accident. And he reawakens in the body of a child who is a prince, who has magic, in a kingdom that is developing. And let's say that this is a comparison. When he appears, it is a comparison to the technology of the 1 Year War. That is your placeholder. 1 Year War. Right there. When Ernie starts realizing what he's got available, he's like, wait, I was an engineer and a mecha otaku. He got run over buying models. He got run over buying model kits. Unlucky bastard. So he realizes that he can put all of his engineering know-how, as well as all these spell books and these giant mechanical armors out in the freaking barn. The warehouse, the hangars look kind of like barns. I mean, when you look at it, yes. So what Ernie does is he accelerates the progress of the mechanical know-how over the course of like 2 years at best. We go from Mobile Suit Gundam levels of tech, probably as high as Char's counterattack levels of tech. And there's a lot of like, what is the term of like, not political intrigue, but more like trade and bartering information. He has to accelerate technology for his own sake in such a way that it doesn't make him look like he's just trying to hoard and overthrow people with bigger and better technology. And like I need all of these supplies for this. What for? Give me the supplies and I'll give you my blueprints for this. Increase your own personal army at your own castle. And just like, because of him, because he puts his big boy pants on and starts studying and doing shit, the level of technology rapidly accelerates. Now, this is, of course, an isekai anime, another world, as it were, wherein you go from a real-world setting into a fantasy setting of some nature. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they do this when you have so many super and real robot settings and shows that can happen in one singular setting, and then this doesn't have a place in that world. There literally has to be another world that either they get jumped over into, or this gets shoveled into our current world, the Universal Century calendar. We're gonna go with Universal Century calendar. 1 Year War happened. Very fucking excited though. On to the bed with you. And lastly, needs no introduction, Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad Gridman, the anime of 5 years ago that was based upon the original 80s tokusatsu show, as well as the 90s Americanization version, because of the big and massive boom of popularity in Power Rangers. Gridman is in. Gridman is taking the budget. Typically, the budget goes to the new Gundam for some odd reason. They decide, like, give it to one of the 3 pillars. Who's new? No, just give it to the new Gundam. The new Gundam has always had really high quality animation, and if you go back and watch all of the promotional videos for Robot Wars 30, Gridman has, like, so many frames and details going on. Holy shit. So, just expect good. I'm starting to run out of words once again because I'm getting excited and getting long-winded. But Gridman naturally is going to be one of your mainstays on your team. What's probably going to be happening a lot is Gridman's going to start with 2 or 3 rather simple attacks, and then he's going to gain several, I think probably get up to 10. I'm going to predict 10 different attacks wherein he's combining with different characters / robots for different moves. A lot of people had been wondering, is he going to get different forms? Wherein he's going to have the big arms, he's going to have the big legs, he's going to have the badass backpack, he's going to get the big sword. Or if he's going to... What was going to happen? I still think that there's potential for Gridman combining with all of his little robot pals, and that being an upgrade. Maybe an upgrade that has a timer on it, because we've had cases of that in the past, where you can combine, but you can only combine for 3 turns, 3 minutes. I still think that's going to be possible, but you're going to see a lot of attacks, a lot of very long and very highly detailed and very powerful attacks, because that Max Gridman blaster, that looks like some good shit. And with that, that covers every standard show that's going to be a part of Super Robot Wars 30. But wait, there's more! Try to contain that a little too much. So what we have is DLC. Now, I have friends that are personally very displeased by the way the DLC is being handled, especially the initial and the pre-order DLC, because they're making characters DLC exclusive to pre-order only. Now, I don't think that's going to stand for very long. I think that perhaps after DLC Pack 2 comes out, they will allow you to purchase the pre-order DLC or make it available for purchase after a certain amount of time. You want to, from a business standpoint, I'm just speculating here, you want to incentivize players to pre-order, because not only does that good look on your numbers, that looks good for your product, looks good for your business. You want people to pre-order, and you want to give them a reason to pre-order. Like, why wait for the day of? No, let's get those sales now. Let's project those sales now. Let's have day 1 sales include your pre-orders and look really good on paper. You know, come out of nowhere. Robot Wars 30 is the most highest selling game worldwide according to worldwide sales. Like, what other series is going to have a multinational simultaneous day release? I'm also not a businessman. I don't know shit. I'm speculating. I digress. The pre-order DLC is going to give you several stages, some bonuses, some equipment parts, some various forms of fun and stat boosting numbers, and 2 units, which I'm representing here with the first is a Psybuster. It's not the same Psybuster, but it's the namesake. Psybuster is one of the first Robot Wars OGs, or original characters, to ever be created for the franchise. I know there's probably a semantic in there regarding maybe one of the bosses in Robot Wars the first, but the Psybuster, Masaki Ando, was the first OG, original gangster, original generation's character made for the franchise that was exclusively made as a character for the Super Robot Wars series. So he and the Psybuster have been around since Robot Wars 2. So while he already was the bonus, the extra, the legacy character in the VTX trilogy, he's back again. Because this is an anniversary series, it makes sense for Masaki and the Psybuster to be there, because he was the first. Now, while he was the first, that doesn't make him the best. What I have here is Super Robot Wars, the original generation anime. This particularly is Divine Wars, which is the animated version of Super Robot Wars OG1 on Game Boy Advance, as well as the original Super Robot Wars OVA, which chronicles the ending of one of the series. I forget. I watched it years and years ago, and this was before I understood what the OGs were. And I was like, "Where's Mazi? Or where's Gundam Wing? This isn't the video game I played." So returning to the Super Robot Wars series is, if not all three of them, at the very least, Ryusei Date, known mecha nerd, and pilots of the R1/SRX Super Robot Experimental. And the design of the SRX's head is the original Ben Presto logo. Or the other way around. Simultaneous design, I really don't know. But as a legacy, the main character of the OG series getting to come back, it's very important. And they just slid him into that first PB like, well, here it is. It's like Gal Genocider. It's like, huh? What's that what you say? Oh my fucking god. Like, people were losing their shit, like, what? You're just gonna slide him in there? Like, hi, I'm here, guys. So, Ryusei, known mecha nerd, gets to come back in the SRX. We don't know to what capacity, if it's only the SRX. We don't know if he's having his co-pilots, Aya and Rai. We don't know if they're going to be able to combine, decombine, if he's going to have an R1 variant. What's probably just the SRX? We don't know. And the less I know, the more excited I can be when I find out. The SRX is the super robot. If a super robot did a particular thing, the SRX is probably doing it as a tribute. Eye lasers, giant swords, rocket fists, giant cannons into the oblivion. If the SRX is doing it, it's only because someone else has come before and done it for them to pay homage. And I'm going to keep this handy. I'm going to bring that back up, although I might actually grab something from the shelf up here if I can spot it real fast. Yeah, for sure. Ooh, put that right there. And then very recently, a few days ago, which is why we're still here doing this. Oh my god, I think we're an hour in. I haven't even looked at the time either. Talking. Let's breathe. Let's talk about the DLC. Let's talk about something that's not a surprise at all. The first machine announced for Super Robot Wars DLC Pack 1, and this is my representation of what is a novel, is Char's Counterattack Beltorchika's Children. This is a novelization, I believe, of Char's Counterattack. We have the original United States novelization of Gundam. We're getting the High New Gundam. And coming up early on in my Super Robot Wars knowledge, I was around a circle of people that would swear by the greatness of the High New Gundam. That was the best Gundam. It was the hot shit, the best unit you could use in any game that it showed up in. It's like, oh man, I hope they bring the High New Gundam in. It's like, oh man, I want to, when we RP, I want to bring the High New Gundam into the group. Blah 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 blah. High New Gundam was like their Jesus Yamato. That was the pinnacle, the god of all Gundams. That wasn't God Gundam. But it's not a surprise to see the upgrade to the new Gundam come along. What they didn't announce was the Nightingale. Which is fine. Maybe there's no precedent for that. Maybe there's no reason for the Nightingale to be there. I don't know what the plot, what the span of Zeta Gundam to Char's counterattack is going to be. But we're getting the high new Gundam. And this is my representation of the novel because that's what I had on my shelf. Go over there. Now, the one that was good. So I watched the preview while I was at work. It was at the very least 8 hours earlier than I was expecting it to come out because I don't know how to translate Japan to United States Central Standard Time. Super magnetic robot Voltes 5. Combat Ree's little brother is here. That was the hot shit. That was good. That made me cry the good tears. People at work were concerned for me because they thought something bad happened. Like, no, this is good. I'm smiling. I'm laughing hysterically without laughing and shouting hysterically. Watch my eyes water like a grown man crying over his parents' death because of a giant robot in a video game. Yo, Voltes 5. So, it is my belief that this sets a very specific precedent for DLC Pack 2 to include Tosho Daimos. Fighting General Daimos. I think that's the silliest translation, but I think it's accurate. Because, like back in the Combattler V-Box said, this is the second of Tadao Nagahama's romantic robot series. The third is Tosho Daimos. It only makes sense for Daimos to show up as part of DLC 2, but I'm not going to be upset if he doesn't, because I like to be open-minded. I like to take things in and be grateful for what I do get, and be excited for when that shit is my shit. Voltes 5, part of DLC Pack 1. Now, here's what kept me crying. Hey, we're back to the OGs again, because they specifically stated that there were going to be at least 2 OG characters per DLC pack. And that left a lot of speculation, because who would you include? You have at least a dozen valid candidates. You have the original characters from VTX that could come back. Fair and valid. You have several other original main characters that could come back from anywhere across the handhelds to OG characters. But you have to think and consider legacy. Who in the Super Robot Wars franchise has a legacy to them? Who's been around the longest besides Ryosei and Masaki? You have Kyosuke and Excellent, which I think are valid picks for the next DLC release. The other valid pick that I think is in the big 2.5 hour event when they were showing off capsule toys. Why would they include the Gun Lion out of nowhere? I think the Gun Lion and perhaps the Vergola could be valid picks for DLC 2. What we got for DLC 1, and I just grabbed this because it's my current Let's Play, was Kusuha Mizuha and Bullet Luckfield, the long-spanning originals from the Alpha timeline. Now, of course, in the Alpha games you can pick who your main character is, but across all 3 games, you can always pick Kusuha and Bullet. Sanger can't be picked in the first game, even though he can be picked in the second and the third. And the other characters are only available for those games. So Kusuha and Bullet are the main characters of the Alpha franchise. But as they also explained later, is that the Chokijin, the Koryu and Ryuko are incredibly popular in Japan and Asia. So, fuck yes! 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 Muscle Wrestling fan! Yo! The Chokijin are in! Lastly, DLC Pack 1. what's fucking up everybody's day is nobody suspected they would add a whole ass new show. It's like, adding OGs makes sense. Bring along Voltes 5, you don't have to have the plot for that. Just bring the unit in, put him next to Combat V, Magnet Brothers all day. Hi, New Gundam. It's just an upgrade to the New Gundam. A whole ass new show. What the fuck, Sakura Taisen? What are you doing? And welcome to Team. Now, of course, my understanding is that Sakura Taisen was in Cross Omega. And my understanding is that the mobile games are kind of a test bed for what could be good for the home console release. They also had a small bit in there where one of the employees at Sega, one of the creators of Sakura Taisen, is like, yo, I've been wanting them in since Saturn. Please? And so, not only just getting Sakura, they later announced off the PV that we're getting Ogami, as well as the main girls from 2 further games, and I think one of the main boys from those games. Because people were talking about how they only announced 7 new units, meaning that there were 2 missing from DLC 1's planned announcement number. And they further went on to Twitter to say, hey, here are the other 2 units. A couple of the boys from Sakura Taisen. But the weird thing is that they also included the enemies from Sakura Taisen. That's the unusual part. So, what I suspect, my suspicion here, is that we're not only getting DLC stages to introduce a character into the fold, but we're probably getting 2, maybe 3 stages of just Sakura Taisen plot happening so that they can reasonably add in different generations of the Flower Troop at a time, as opposed to here they all are, let's overcomplicate their arrival. But the fact that they're adding an entire series as DLC is mind-blowing. That just opens the gates for anything in DLC 2. So, while we have no PV, and I'm not going to be the person who's like, I called it, or why didn't they put my show in there? I'm not saying don't have an opinion. I'm going to be adamant about saying appreciate what you get, because it could always be that we get nothing. Nothing is always the option that is there, and you don't be ungrateful for the goodness that we do get just because we didn't get your thing. I'm not getting some of my things. There's stuff that I wanted. I don't know if we'll ever see Razafon in the game again. Betterman's only half a representation from the Obscure Compact Quartet. But I'm happy with what we do have. And I'm going to be happy with what else we do get. I want y'all to be happy with what we get. I want y'all to be excited. I want y'all to be hype. I want y'all to be ready to fucking go on October 28th. Even though I'm probably not going to be playing it until October 29th. So, my predictions for DLC 2. Our OGs, I would like to see Ren Travis and the Gun Lion. I think there's precedent for it. That would be great. I would like to see Tosho Daimos. There's precedent for it. And that would be great. And then I want just one more fucking show out of nowhere. You know, I don't want to lay down any names other than my prediction for hoping for Rand and Deimos at this point. I'll take anything else. I'd be very excited for another series. I could give you a list of anime over here on my shelf. Fucking We're going to bojangle the camera a little bit. And maybe y'all are new to the channel. Despite that my room's a mess from having to take things off the shelf. That's 2 layers deep. That's 2 layers deep. That's 2 layers deep. That's 2 layers deep. All giant robot anime. All of which I'd be fucked up excited to see show up as DLC 2. I keep wanting to come up with a reason to put something at the top of the list, but I don't want to do that. I guess IBO. IBO would be nice. Just because it's a different Gundam from Universal Century. And so, with all of that rambling aside, I do thank y'all for sitting through this and watching. I hope this has been interesting, informative, and got y'all hype for the upcoming video game that we're going to enjoy for a couple of years. I don't think we need another Robot Wars for a couple of years coming now. I thank y'all for watching. Please stay tuned for other giant robot antics, collections, video games, and more as we continue a very long and arduous conquest to probably play every Super Robot Wars game. I've been Zappa, the dubbed King of Giant Robots. If y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns, or maybe y'all want me to come and coach you through Super Robot Wars, or just have someone be the hype man in your stream, holla at your boy. I'm right here in the comments. Good night, Space Lords.